Hello, Internet. And welcome to the debut pilot. Are we going to listen to debut episode or pilot episode? Pilot episode?
Pilot.
Welcome to the pilot episode of the first ever EveryJoe Podcast. Yeah, I got that right.
Yeah.
I'm Brodigan. I'm gonna be hosting this dumpster fire each and every week, God willing. We're gonna be discussing politics. We're gonna be discussing issues. We're gonna be discussing stuff. You're gonna like when we discuss this stuff. It's gonna be fun. But joining me each and every week, we have EveryJoe's best and brightest from the Lone Star State of Texas. EveryJoe contributor Corie Whalen. Welcome.
Oh, wrong one.
Wait.
Oh, no. Lone Star State. I thought you were talking about me.
Oh,
wrong Texan.
Wrong. Two Texans. I got confused.
He's talking to the pretty Texan.
Yeah, pretty Texans always go first.
Ladies first. I always end with you.
That's true.
well,
Corie, welcome.
hello.
Another one of our EveryJoe contributors, all the way out on the left coast, Los Angeles, California, Kira Davis.
The Constitution, for God's sake!
And, of course, our boss and peerless leader, through whom all things are possible, political editor of EveryJoe.com, and the Dr. Dre to the Everyone Else Death Row Records, Brendan Morse. Welcome.
Some things never change. I love it. That was awesome. Thank you, Brodigan.
So, I mean, the reason why we decided to record our pilot episode, I almost fell asleep for a second. Not really fell asleep, but I started closing my eyes because I forget the camera's on.
You can think with your eyes open, Brodigan. Oh, this podcast is off to a stellar start.
You can think and see at the same time. It's all good.
We are off to a stellar start. If we haven't driven everyone away yet, it's okay to look at people, Brodigan. You can look at us.
Look at the bright side. This was originally going to be live, but we had technical issues.
I know, thank God.
True story. Yeah.
We're actually, forget pilot episode, we're going to call this the EveryJoe Podcast dress rehearsal.
Hey, I'm fine with that.
But yes, the reason why we decided to do it tonight is we figured, hey, there's a big debate the night before, and that gives us stuff to talk about because all anyone seems to want to talk about for the past 4 months is like, oh my God, debates. People are debating. They're talking about politics. It's awesome. So let's just go around the table. Well, it's not really a table, but Corie, we'll start with you. What was your overall take on the debate?
I think my overall take on the debate was that they finally talked a little bit about substance, which I sort of expected with Fox Business because they're pretty wonky on economic issues. So I was glad to hear them talk a little bit more about specifics of tax plans and different things like that. And I think there were fewer people on the debate stage than there were before, and it gave some of the candidates an opportunity to differentiate themselves. And so overall, I think it was probably, substantively speaking, the best debate, but I don't know that as many people tuned in, considering Fox Business is maybe less prime time than some of the other previous debates that we've had in the past.
But they did pull a larger audience than the CNBC debate, and I think even the MSNBC debate. I think Fox Business posted their best numbers ever, and better than the previous debates on the liberal channels, so that's something.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. I didn't know. I figured that maybe some of the more mainstream channels would have done better, but that's actually a good thing.
Yeah, I think they worked out a deal, though, with their cable providers, too, to stream to more homes, and that boosted their numbers at the last second.
Well, I mean, all of them have been streamed so far, but I can
there's something with the channels like that they're available on because you have to have certain packages to have Fox Business, and they negotiated some deal with the cable companies where they would just put it on your basic package or whatever for that night.
No, I've been able to stream it because I don't have cable.
Yeah, me neither.
I don't need it. But I have been streaming the debates, thankfully, through my laptop and stuff like that. So if you are out there and you don't have cable either, which less and less people seem to be having cable these days, you can still watch it through your computer, which is awesome. They've been providing them for free, every single debate for free online. So
good.
There you go. Well, we actually, this is exciting because the last time Brendan and I did one of these hangouts when we tried to throw to a clip, we didn't really understand all this technology. So you'd watch the episode, and then you would just see all four of us sitting in silence for 2 minutes while we thought we were watching a clip, and everyone else was. But we have actual clips that can actually work now. And first, we're going to go to, and this is a guy that I think in general has been the most consistent. Okay, let's be honest. The winner of the debates is whoever your favorite candidate is in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
And the losers is everyone else. But the best reviewed consistently has been Marco Rubio, and we have what a lot of people saying was his best clip. And this is a perfect example of how playing my nail clipper. This is a perfect example of how scared he's got the Democrats, and the fact that they think attacking him on philosophers is an effective attack. So, producer, to the clip.
Here's the best way to raise wages. Make America the best place in the world to start a business or expand an existing business. Tax reform and regulatory reform. Bring our debt under control. Fully utilize our energy resources so we can reinvigorate manufacturing. Repeal and replace Obamacare. And make higher education faster and easier to access, especially vocational training. For the life of me, I don't know why we have stigmatized vocational education. Welders make more money than philosophers. We need more welders and less philosophers. And if we do that, and if we do this, we will be able to increase wages for millions of Americans, and we will be able to leave everyone better off without making anyone worse off.
Now, to me, this is the perfect example of like exactly how good Rubio I think is for us, and why he's got them scared. Because when you see all like the Fight for 15 rallies going on, it's clear that the left thinks that they're going to have a minimum wage push as the big part of the issue. Because obviously, if you oppose the minimum wage, that means you hate poor people and probably minority women also. And when you have someone like Rubio who could actually break it down as someone who's actually grew up middle class and has the working class experiences that, say, someone like a multimillionaire Hillary Clinton doesn't have, it negates their argument.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know what else I think is awesome is the fact that this is the first time I've actually seen any of those candidates actually talk about how awesome it is to be a lower class or blue collar worker. You hear the Democrats all the time talk about how they support them and how they want to take care of them, blah 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 blah. But they never really get down to the point where it's like, hey, it's okay to be this guy, and not be divisive about it, which I think is amazing on Rubio's part.
That I agree with you, Brandon, and that's really what attracted me to conservatism in the first place. Mm-hmm. Kind of growing up as just a default liberal, default Democrat. One of the things I began to notice in my shift is that the difference between hope and despair, and one side tells you nothing's ever going to be right. You have the cards stacked against you, so what you need is for other people to get lower so it can be fair. And then you have the other side, guys like Marco Rubio, saying, no, you have the opportunity just by being here in this country. That's your opportunity. And so there's power and dignity and success to be found in making your own way. And I have to admit that this is one of the things that I like about Marco Rubio. I don't agree with all of his positions, but right. I love that he is so very articulate.
Yes.
And he has a way of breaking down complicated concepts.
Yeah, I agree with Kira on that. Rubio's not my favorite candidate. I have some pretty major disagreements with him, but I've written about the fact that Rubio is very articulate and good for the Republican brand. I've even predicted that I think he'll be the eventual nominee. Now, I don't know if I'm right about that. I don't know if things are going to change, but Kira's absolutely right when she says that Rubio breaks down these issues very simply. I remember in the debate last night, Carson was sort of struggling a little to explain his position on the minimum wage, and then Rubio stepped in and really made it clear, and I think that was very important.
Yeah, and he has a habit of doing that too. And he also sounds very presidential. He sounds like a leader.
I'll tell you this, Brandon. The first time I saw Marco Rubio speak live, which was years ago before he was even Marco Rubio, I remember turning to somebody and saying, that guy, I bet he will be our president one day.
Yeah.
So I just remember even then knowing nothing about him, thinking that he was so impressive. And, of course, since then, a little bit of his record might have changed my mind. But, yeah, like you guys are saying, exactly. I think at this point in the debate, thanks to Donald Trump, I will say this, there are a lot of eyes on the Republican field that would not have been there otherwise. And Marco Rubio is extremely savvy to take advantage of those opportunities to explain his position. And I hear him being one of the few candidates that's speaking to the general elections.
Right.
That's true.
So come for the Trump, stay for the Rubio.
Yeah.
It was.
Unfortunately, the disturbing thing there. He's going to take credit for it. That's going to be his line.
Well, that's okay. I mean, that's what he does. I think that's fine.
Well, there are a lot of different people who think that if winning really isn't Trump's goal here, that he is going to at some point in time drop out, and he was trying to usher in someone like Ted Cruz, that was actually Gavin McInnes's theory.
I think that's too much. That's too conspiratorial for my taste.
It's no. You know what I think that is? I think that's the matter of Ted Cruz's supporters noticing that all of Ted Cruz's other supporters is supporting Donald Trump.
Right.
For reasons I don't want to get into because I'll start throwing stuff. Basically, I think he's trying to sell out Splain.
Yeah, sell out Splain
why so many parties are supporting Donald Trump. So
sell out Splain. That's good. I like that.
Speaking of the debate, another candidate that we've seen, I think, improve from debate to debate to the fact where she started out in the kiddie table, and she's on the main stage has been Carly Fiorina, and this clip we have right here is her talking about healthcare. And I believe how she had the audacity to have cancer and to talk about helping people. Apparently, according to the left, she shouldn't be allowed to do. I don't get it. But it's Carly Fiorina.
Just to be clear, you said you would repeal Obamacare. Absolutely. But what is the alternative? And how does that help small business?
The alternative is to allow states to manage high-risk pools for those who really need help. Look, I'm a cancer survivor. Okay? I understand that you cannot have someone who's battled cancer just become known as a pre-existing condition. I understand that you cannot allow families to go bankrupt if they truly need help. But I also understand that Obamacare isn't helping anyone. We're throwing more and more people into Medicaid, and fewer doctors are taking those payments. The point is Obamacare is crushing small businesses. It is not helping the families it was intended to help. So let us allow states to manage high-risk pools. Let us try the one thing in health insurance we've never tried, the free market.
And I was actually having this conversation about Carly with some friends of the family before, and you see that clip. She's been great on messaging. She's been great in breaking things down to like the heart of the matter of every issue and like connecting to people. But I think she was one of those candidates, and is one of those candidates who like runs for president because she's looking for something else. They never actually seem to go far. They never seem to actually connect with other with like the voters because they're not trying to in the first place because that's not their game. And I think in Carly's case, she actually did in a big way. And while I would love to see her on like the final debate on candidates, like as winning primaries, I'm not entirely sure she's got the organization for it yet. And I was wondering if anyone else noticed that.
I agree.
I feel like Fiorina, when she does come to the table, she does know what she's talking about. She's knowledgeable.
Yeah,
absolutely.
That I don't think I can deny that fact. I mean, anytime she does speak up, which she really should have spoke up a lot more last debate, you really get the sense that she is a powerful woman who knows what she wants to do and how to get it done. Whenever she talks about Putin, it really makes me think that Putin is over in Russia going, crap.
It really makes me wish she had that briefcase with the nuclear codes in it. But I love Fiorina. I have to be honest with you. Out here in California, she ran for senator. She ran for Senate against Barbara Boxer. I mean, any Republican that runs, it's a losing campaign. That's just the way it is out here. But I never paid much attention to her when she was running because of that reason. I mean, it didn't matter. She wasn't going to win. She didn't win. It wasn't until she started popping up on the national scene that I really started to take a look at her. And I like the way Carly Fiorina talks. And again, she's one of those people that I tend to agree with with Brodigan's assessment that, perhaps she's not connecting because this isn't really what she's going for. This isn't the end game. But she's still very valuable because she makes a case for how to talk to the media. And where Rubio breaks down ideas, she breaks down how to deal with hostile media, which, of course, I'm sure she had to do all the time as CEO of HP. So this is what I love about Carly, that every time that she is confronted with a difficult question or a difficult interviewer, she puts on a clinic on how you should deal with these people. Mm-hmm. I agree. I don't think her end game as president, she would be a fabulous running mate, or Secretary of State. I would love to see her. She'd be great, a great attacker for Hillary. Actually, she's just got a lot of uses, I think, that we haven't.
I think you've got a really good point there about her being Secretary of State. I really do. I think she'd
I'll have to disagree on Secretary of State as the resident libertarian, but I will say that I think she's kind of running for VP.
What, you don't think we should have Secretary of State position at all?
Oh, no. I meant that Carly's not the ideal person.
Oh, I see.
No. I like Carly, though. I like Carly a lot. I think that she is probably the best messenger on that stage. For me, when she talks about cronyism, she articulates that in a way that is just so incredible. She talks about the intersection of big government and big corporations and how they work together. And frankly, she has the liberals scared on that. I've actually seen Bernie Sanders supporters who say that she's dangerous because of the way she messages on that. So for me, her value there is something that I really, really love.
I have to say also that I don't want to get people angry, but I don't know. Do we need another woman as Secretary of State? Can we have a man? I don't know. Send your angry emails to Brodigan at EveryJoe.com.
The feminists are gearing up now. Actually, if you don't mind, I'm going to wrest control for just a second from you, Brodigan.
Sure.
There's also something that happened during the debate, which I thought was, kind of weird, kind of rude. And I really don't think it was warranted, especially with everyone talking over everyone like they were. At one point during the debate, Carly tried to jump in, and throughout, she and Paul trying to go back and forth with each other, Trump kind of chimes in and says, "Why is she always interrupting everybody?" Which elicited massive boos, and rightly so. I feel like, this is a debate stage. Everyone should just jump in whenever, they feel they should and try to muscle their way in. I actually like to personally see that kind of stuff. But anyway, here's the clip. Let's watch it and get your opinions on it.
How would you respond?
Ronald Reagan was strong, but Ronald Reagan didn't.
And Ronald Reagan walked away at Reykjavik. He walked away. He quit talking when it was time to quit talking.
Can I finish with my time?
Why does she keep interrupting everybody?
Yeah.
Boy, terrible.
Yeah, I'd like to finish my response, basically.
And the thing that cracks me up here, and this is the thing that's been bothering me about the entire Trump candidacy, is that his supporters are going to watch that and agree with him just because Trump said it.
Yeah.
If they get, oh no, that wasn't rude. She's a terrible woman who's got an ugly face, and she shouldn't be interrupting as opposed to everyone else. Because I mean, these are also the same people where I think Trump apparently said a couple times today that the problem with wages is that they're too high.
Mm-hmm. The problem with wages is that they're too high?
Yes, the wages are too damn high. People, employees are making too much money.
So we know who his running mate's going to be.
Well, this is the thing. This is the thing about Trump, and this is why this doesn't bother me that much. Mm-hmm. Because Trump has a couple of tells, and one of his tells for if he feels threatened by someone is if he attacks them. You'll notice that the guys that don't threaten him, he doesn't have the time of day for. You think Trump gives a rip about what Kasich drones on and on about? He don't care about Jeb, you know, but you'll see him come at Carly. You'll see him come at Ben Carson, and no one is doing that because he's such a nice guy. You know, that's bad optics. But so you can tell he's threatened. That's one of his tells. And then the other tell is when the conversation turns to specifics, like the Fox business debate, where you need to really get in the numbers and the details of your plan, he gets really quiet.
That's absolutely true. And the thing about Trump, too, is that, you know, I hate when the left says everything is sexism or everything is racism, but honestly, Trump really does go after women in a way that is kind of bizarre. I mean, everyone in that debate was interrupting, but he focuses on Carly. The problem with Trump is that he's basically the left's cliche of a Republican, and that's what bothers me about him, is that he basically is out there. He's not even really a Republican. I mean, the dude's a Clinton donor, so let's be real. But he goes out there and he fulfills these cliches about someone who's ignorant, doesn't really know much about economics, attacks women. The thing about him, it bothers me because we have this whole entire field of amazing candidates, and we have Trump as the alleged frontrunner when people like Scott Walker and Rick Perry have actually dropped out of the race. I think that's what bothers me most about Trump, is that he's kind of a stalking horse for the Democrats, and it's just obnoxious. I mean, if we had Rick Perry and Scott Walker instead of him, and even
I have to disagree with you, Corey. Yeah? I really do. I'm not, but I feel obligated to preface this with I am absolutely not a Trump person. But I am an entertainment person, and I love the business. And I get that we have ideals and we think things should be one way, but I think we have to deal with things the way they are. And the fact is that people aren't going to tune into you if you're not entertaining. These debates are super boring. You're not just trying to get out ideas. You're also trying to garner votes and garner attention. And so while, yeah, it bothers me that this guy is using up so much hot air, I think what he has brought to the race is far more valuable. He's brought eyes that would never be there before. So there are people that are watching Rand Paul and watching Marco Rubio and watching Carly Fiorina who never would have had a chance to see a Republican other than Donald Trump had he not been in the race. So I kind of like the circus that he brings, and I'm not offended by his antics, and I love it when he makes himself look ridiculous. And I say bring it on. I loved Perry. I loved Walker. Either of them would have been great presidents, but you know what? They just didn't have the thing. And sometimes all it boils down to is you just don't have the thing.
Yeah, and I think that's also the thing with Perry and Walker is that, you know, Donald Trump had nothing to do with the two of them running terrible campaigns. Yeah. I mean, Scott Walker's entire campaign was to spend money like it's October 2016.
Yeah, that's fair. I think Scott Walker probably had a bigger ego than he needed to. I mean, I get what you're saying, Kira, absolutely. I think it's just that Trump himself bothers me, but I do agree with you.
I don't blame you.
More eyes. It's good to have more eyes. It's just, man, Donald Trump, like, oh.
I know, and that's the thing. I agree, but I think in the long run, I think history will judge this as beneficial. Because I really don't think he's going to go all the way. And I don't think he's taking anyone's place. I honestly don't. I think the people that have dropped out should have dropped out. They just weren't running good campaigns, and as I said before, whatever that thing is, they just didn't have.
Yeah, no, I can agree with that, actually. The fact that, you know, Trump has actually energized what it is to see and watch a Republican debate or even just watch them talk, that can't be denied. There is some quality there. Quality as a candidate, as a leader, no. This is the guy who responds to people on his Twitter like a 14-year-old girl who's, you know, pissed off about being called fat.
I love it. I love that. I love that.
You can like it.
You can safe space.
Yeah, no, you can like that all you want, but I just don't want that in my life. I don't want him. I don't want Putin having, like, you know, some kind of nasty thing to say or kind of underhanded thing to say, and then watch our president respond with, "Oh yeah, well you're a big dummy," and blah, 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 blah. Come on,
yeah.
You know, I don't want that.
I think the reason why I can be so cavalier about it is because I don't really think that's going to happen. So I'm happy to watch all this play out.
You know what it is? I just think it's sad that Brandon has gone liberal and he's supporting political correctness, because if he was truly conservative, he would actually support someone calling him a dummy, because the people are tired of this mealy-mouthed political correctness, and they want someone who's going to call Putin a dummy. So I'm actually disappointed in you, Brandon.
I'm sorry, guys. I need a safe space.
I'll tell you this. I'd rather have a president that would call Putin a dummy than suck his Poogie stick.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I gotta be honest with you. I don't have a segue here, so let's just get some talking.
Well, first of all, thank you for not asking me what I said in the 10th grade. I appreciate that. But
I'll just forget that follow-up there.
The fact of the matter is, what we should vet all candidates. I have no problem with being vetted. What I do have a problem with is being lied about and then putting that out there as truth. And I don't even mind that so much if they do it with everybody, like people on the other side. But, when I look at somebody like Hillary Clinton, who sits there and tells her daughter and a government official that, no, this was a terrorist attack, and then tells everybody else that it was a video, where I came from, they call that a lie. And
I gotta be honest with you. I like Ben Carson. I'm kind of getting tired a little bit with the attacks on the media.
Mm-hmm.
Not so much tired of it because I think the media actually deserves it. But coming off of the CNBC debate, like he had a setup there, and I think Ted Cruz had a setup there, where it almost looked like that they were trying too hard.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he could have had a more valid point. I mean, look, I understand where Carson's coming from because people have been straight up like making stuff up about him, and and we're not talking about like I hate conservatives.tumblr.com. We're talking about Politico. I mean, I definitely get that, but I think I think everyone's going to slow their roll a little bit when it comes to like the media, blah 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 blah.
Well, I do feel like because after the CNBC fiasco, and let's be honest, it was a fiasco.
Yes.
You had Fox Business just. I don't know if y'all watched like the pre-debate or the post-debate or even like at points during the debate. They constantly were saying how much better they were than CNBC without actually mentioning CNBC.
Well, did you get that dig, that Cavuto dig at the end?
Oh, yeah, no, it was beautiful. Don't get me wrong.
Snap.
Yeah, no, it was beautiful. Cavuto was a clever dude.
The thing about all of that, and I have to agree with Brodigan on this, is that I like Ben Carson as a person, but at some point, the media sucks shtick is not good enough. Like, that's fine. Okay, the media scrutinizes Republicans more than Democrats. We know that. That's a fact, and anyone on the conservative side understands that. But it also is not an excuse for having a campaign that frankly looks like amateur hour half the time. I mean, I think just one more thing about that. No, you're fine. Ben Carson, I like him, but I don't get the sense that his campaign is serious. It seems to me sometimes like he's running more of a book tour than an actual presidential campaign, and I'm not sure I understand what he's doing. And so
I see. This is. I think.
Go ahead. He's winning, though.
But this is right.
He's winning. Right now.
Okay. Well, right now is all we have. We don't have down the road. But this is the interesting thing about Carson's campaign, because I was one of the ones that was like, no, I don't think you should run. And I used to work for him. I'm a fan, so full disclosure, but I just didn't think I'm with you, Corey. I'm like, his campaign is amateur hour. He's not going to, and I've been shocked. I have been shocked at how far he has gotten on his personality alone. Now, you may be right. We don't know what's coming
Which is
down
weird.
the road.
He could run a very successful ASMR YouTube channel.
But this is the appeal of Ben Carson, which is why I think he sounds like he's on a book tour. He sounds like he's, manufacturing these things about the media. No, Ben Carson, I don't think he's that savvy. I think he's literally just saying what's on his mind, and because he's so mild-mannered, it comes off as nonchalant or manufactured, or like he doesn't have the fire. But remember that this is a guy who operates on people's brains, the most precise piece of machinery in the known universe. Yeah. So probably everything seems like small potatoes to him.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair. I mean, I think Ben Carson is a great person. You know, I don't think that there's really anything wrong with him as a a person at all. But I just sometimes wonder what his campaign is, and I think it's interesting. I mean, he definitely rallies a big part of the conservative base, but I'd like to see what happens coming off of this debate, because as much as I like him as a person, I don't get the sense that he necessarily gets into as much of the policy weeds as really anyone else minus Donald Trump.
I'm interested to see how he'll do when the field narrows and the attacks really start. Yeah, I agree with you.
No, but that said, though, I do have to. I mean, what he did point out was accurate.
Yes.
The fact that the media was going out of its way to try to, make Carson look like a fool or like he was weird. And don't get me wrong, the picture of him and Jesus in his house was a little weird.
It's not. No, let me say something about that. That's not weird. Every black person in America has a version of that picture in their home. It just doesn't have themselves in it.
Do you have one?
Well, you live in Orange County. But my grandma had one. You can go to any. It always has Malcolm X or Martin Luther King and Jesus in it. I swear to you. So that whole thing is just like, that's a cultural thing. That really gets on my nerves. It's like you don't know enough black people.
That's actually a fair point.
So that was just that was my white privilege or my microaggression.
Your white privilege is oppressing me.
I'm sorry. I didn't know. But no, what I thought was they thought it was.
Karen needs a safe space right now, okay?
Karen needs a safe space now.
God, Brandon.
God, horrible. Just white, male, cis, everything.
Yeah. You need to leave.
No, but I mean, one thing they did try to do to him, which I thought was weird, was all those awards and all the the stuff that he had up on his wall that was basically like a shrine to Carson. My one thought about that was like, so what? So he has a bunch of trophies and plaques and stuff dedicated to him in his house.
He probably deserves them. Like, he literally saved lives. That's not my problem with Carson.
But the fact that the left thought that he had a trophy room basically a shrine to his own successes, they thought that was weird, says more about the left than it will ever say about the right.
Yeah. I'm sure Obama keeps his Nobel Peace Prize in the desk drawer.
I mean, it's okay, leftists, to be a winner. You can do that. It's great. It's
What's he supposed to do with them?
Yeah, exactly. Like, well, I don't want anybody to see these. I'll put them in the basement in a box.
Whoa, Dr. Carson? Is that you? Yeah. That was spot on.
That was pretty good. I'm not even going to lie. That was
good. Thank you.
He keeps them in a closet in a box that's marked has Cincinnati marked on it.
Okay. So I think, regardless of that, though, the fact that you have all of that attention being paid to Carson for really dumb reasons. You don't have them paying attention to Hillary and that, and they're vetting him based on what's in his house. They're not vetting Hillary based on literally what she's saying every day.
Yes.
No, there is undoubtedly a double standard. I mean, the double standard is very, very clear. I just think that Republicans have to be extra vigilant about that. And it doesn't mean that, it's excusable, but I also think that, and this is my issue with Carson, is that I think he spends a little more time attacking the media than defending himself or his campaign. And that's fine. I mean, we said this about Carly before. I'm not entirely sure that Carson is running for president. And I don't know it for sure, but when I look at Carly and when I look at Carson and when I look at their ground games or their lack thereof, I'm not quite sure what's going on. I will say, to Ted Cruz and Rand Paul's credit, they have serious, real ground games. And I really wonder how that's going to translate in New Hampshire and Iowa versus what's in the polling.
Yeah.
And look, I mean, I definitely, I would prefer it if they would leave the attacking the media to us. But if you need to defend yourself, and let's be honest, the media gives plenty of reasons to take a shot at them. If it's not natural and if it's something that you've been practicing before your debate as part of your debate prep as your applause line, just stop.
Well, I'm going to have to say this. I do think that it's good that, especially now that, going to our earlier point about Trump bringing all this new energy and all these new viewers and stuff, it's good that they're attacking the media that like they are a little bit here. They need to point out that hypocrisy so that people will know, hey, look, look at what they're doing, they're focusing on, but over here, you'll notice they're blatantly lying. And they're not covering it. They're not telling you that. And that will, I hope, at least, that will make people think and say, oh, well, maybe I should stop listening to them, which is a trend that has been occurring lately. I noticed that many people are breaking with the media. They're questioning things that they've been told. Gamergate, it was a really big part of that recently, where the media they stopped believing in the media. They actually went out and started trying to figure things out for themselves. I think there is a new tide turning lately, and I really think that hearing all these Republicans kind of get up and say that while they have the spotlight that they do is a really good thing.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And I think, too, I mean, when you look at the left and you look at the fact that Bernie Sanders is even a thing, I think that speaks to that. I mean, I really do not care for Bernie Sanders at all, but it speaks to the fact that there is a kind of an honesty deficit that people are concerned about in politics, where whether or not they're left or right ideologically, they want someone who's being truthful to them. And I think that's why, for example, people even liked Ron Paul in the past, and to an extent Rand this time, although Rand has maybe been a little less radical than his father. But regardless, I think that people are into the idea of someone telling them the truth, and they don't trust the media, and that does cross ideological spans 100%.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's, again, these are all reasons why I think the sensationalism that has surrounded the GOP debate, thanks to Trump and his hair, have been really good, because there are people. For us, we live in this world. This is our job. We follow this all day long, every day. So all of these events and sequences and complaints are familiar. We write about them all the time. The truth is that my friends don't know hardly any of this, but they do watch the Republican debates. And when they see, for you and I to see Carson address the media again, we'll be like, oh, again? But for my gay liberal friend who would never deign to vote for a Republican in his whole fabulous life, sees Ben Carson up there, and he's cute, and he's nice, and he's like, I think I kind of like him, and I think he has a point. He's watching because he wanted to see Donald Trump make some fireworks. He left thinking of Carson as a different person. So if he's just one person, I can't imagine how many other people out there are like that. So there's value in all of this chaos. And I don't mind that they address the media. I think Brodigan said it perfectly, and I endorse 100% that if it's canned and manufactured and you're looking for the applause lines, don't bother. But if it's organic and, hey, you just need to get this out, like everything Kasich says is simply rehearsed. Please, somebody, please, for the love of all that is holy, in the name of Allah, get Kasich off.
I want to say something real quick about manufactured, because I'm not really a huge Rubio fan, but I've written at EveryJoe for the past several weeks that I think he's a really good communicator. But I have to say, in this past debate, Rubio sounded way overrehearsed. I felt like he was more candid this time than he's been in the past. I like authentic Rubio. Like, Rubio was amazing when he went after Jeb. That was so good. When he was like, Jeb, like, you're attacking me because your consultants told me to. I was like, yes. But this time he's like, my father was a bartender. Like, yes, no. Like, you have a compelling family story, but it felt like a really bad soap opera. Mm-hmm. And I think authentic Rubio is better. Yes. And I think authentic Ted Cruz is better. And I also think authentic Rand Paul, too. All three of them, the three senators, they do so much better when they're authentic. And I really wish that they would not over-rehearse. I feel really sorry about that.
That's actually one of the problems, because one of my problems with Ted Cruz is the fact that he sounds like everything he says sounds rehearsed. I don't dislike
He's a trial lawyer. Love trial lawyers. I'm married to one of them, but he gets that lawyer voice like, I'm Ted Cruz. Let me lower my voice and speak to you in a way that is.
But does your husband ever come home and is like, Corie, let me talk to you right now about this mess in the kitchen?
Yeah, I don't feel like he's trying to tell me something.
No, literally, like, Robbie's going to kill me if he watches this, but sometimes he does. And I'm like, sweetheart, you're not in front of a jury right now. Like, love you, but, like, preachy lawyer voice, like, no. It's totally a trial lawyer thing. But I will say, Ted is better when he's authentic. And as someone who supported his campaign in Texas and spent a decent amount of time with him one-on-one, there is a lot to like about Ted Cruz. And he comes across as inauthentic when he acts like he's speaking in front of the Supreme Court.
I
think cut it out.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Yeah. Can I ask a question? What did you guys think about Christie getting knocked off the main stage and moving to the kids' table? I watched the kids' table debate. And there's nobody there that's like really like, oh, they need to get. But I thought he did really good, and I don't know that it was. I keep saying I'm not a so-and-so fan. I don't know that it was time for him to leave the main stage yet. What do you guys think?
Yeah. I don't understand why Kasich's still there and Christie's not.
I do, because Ohio. Listen, we're never. I was joking earlier. I really. The GOP has been prepping Kasich since 2012. Remember, he used to be huge conservative and like really like to the right, and then he kind of moved center. But I do believe that the GOP after 2012 said we got to lock down Ohio. We're going to set you to the middle. Mark my words, Kasich has a cabinet position coming up. He's not going out. He had 55 minutes of screen time on that stage last night, and he's last in the polls. So tell me that that's not some kind of arrangement or deal. That's an arrangement that the GOP has made so that when it comes time to lock down Ohio, we can send Kasich out there and everyone's seen him.
Yeah, no, I you know what, I could get behind that line of thinking. I just don't understand. To your point, I forget that he's running half the time.
I actually forgot him in a list, and someone called me.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm not sure why he's even there. And the fact that when they said they were moving Christie off, I was like, why? I mean, I get it. He wasn't, polling all that well, but come on, like, he is way more engaging. He's way more intelligent. I feel like he has at least, given this is my ignorance speaking, I feel like he's got a lot more of a record than Kasich does. This is the kind of guy who has been on Jimmy Fallon, so he has, recognizability to regular Americans and stuff like that. But they're going to move him to the B squad?
Yeah.
So, to defend Kasich, I want to defend Kasich really, really quick because
please do, Corie.
I know Kira's not impressed, but okay. Well, we'll transition, but I want to say that I think Kasich does play a role within the framework of the GOP because he's the ultimate moderate that Democrats want to believe is a Republican, and I feel like that is valuable as far as the span of Republicanism goes. And this makes me a total rhino, and I own it, but I loved what Kasich said on immigration. I love that he called Donald Trump out for not being reasonable. We're not going to deport 11 to 12 million people, and Kasich was actually honest about that. So while he's not that great, and I think he's awful on corporatism and awful on Medicaid, I do see a role for him in the GOP, and I get why he's there, but I do still think Christie is a more engaging candidate. I will agree with Kira on that.
Yeah, and we have one more clip to get to, but I just want to say this one thing about Christie is that I've been telling people that don't sleep on Christie because when it comes to retail politics, he's not only the best we have now, he's the best we've had in like decades. And if there's any one candidate who could pull up from McCain where they go from carrying their own bag at the airport to getting the nominee, if lightning strikes, he could probably find a way.
I could see that.
We do have one more clip, and this was I guess was the most wasn't the most sparks flying.
Yeah.
That was Trump, but it was like the most sparks flying that it was like a serious part of the debate.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Okay. All right, let's play it.
A point that I'd like to make about the tax credits. We have to decide what is conservative and what isn't conservative. Is it fiscally conservative to have $1 trillion expenditure? We're not talking about giving people back their tax money. He's talking about giving people money they didn't pay. It's a welfare transfer payment. So here's what we have. Is it conservative to have $1 trillion in transfer payments, a new welfare program that's a refundable tax credit? Add that to Marco's plan for $1 trillion in new military spending, and you get something that looks to me not very conservative.
Thank you. Governor Casey.
No,
Let me come to Governor Casey.
No,
Governor
excuse
Casey.
me, excuse me, I get to respond.
Very quickly, Senator.
No, I get my 60 seconds to respond. He's talking about my tax plan.
Please.
So let me begin with this. I actually believe, first of all, this is their money. They do pay. It is refundable, not just against the taxes they pay to the government, but also on their federal income tax. It's refundable against the payroll tax. Everyone pays payroll tax. This is their money. This is not our money. And here's what I don't understand. If you invest that money in a piece of equipment, if you invest that money in a business, you get to write it off your taxes. But if you invest it in your children, in the future of America, in strengthening your family, we're not going to recognize that in our tax code. The family is the most important institution in
Nevertheless,
society.
it's not
and yes,
very
I do want to rebuild the
Marco.
American military.
How's it conservative?
I know that Rand is a committed isolationist. I'm not. I believe the world is a stronger and a better place when the United States is the strongest military power in the world.
Marco, how is it conservative? How is it conservative to add $1 trillion expenditure for the federal government that you're not paying for? How is it conservative? How is it conservative to add $1 trillion in military expenditures? You cannot be a conservative if you're going to keep promoting new programs that you're not going to pay for.
I may respond more quickly.
Very quickly, Senator.
We can't even have an economy if we're not safe. There are radical jihadists in the Middle East beheading people and crucifying Christians. A radical Shia cleric in Iran trying to get a nuclear weapon. The Chinese taking over the South China Sea. Yes, I believe the world is a safer... No, I don't believe. I know that the world is a safer and better place when America is the strongest military power in the world.
Marco, I don't think we're any safer. I do not think we are any safer from bankruptcy court. As we go further and further into debt, we become less and less safe. This is the most important thing we're going to talk about tonight. Can you be a conservative and be liberal on military spending? Can you be for unlimited military spending and say, oh, I'm going to make the country safe? No, we need a safe country. But you know, we spend more on our military than the next 10 countries combined. I want a strong national defense, but I don't want us to be bankrupt.
Well, and there is a middle ground. There is a middle ground.
Corie, we're going to go right to you because I know you have a column coming out on EveryJoe.com tomorrow. What did you think of this clip?
I have to say, I mean, it's no secret that I like Rand Paul, that he's my candidate of choice, but I've also been objective in the past about his debate performances. He generally is so esoteric, he doesn't do all that well in this context, and I will say that it's very, very hard for Rand to get his foreign policy views across this way, but I think what happened here is something that needs to be delved into further within the Republican Party, because I think what Rand Paul is saying from kind of more of this realist strain in foreign policy within the Republican Party versus what Rubio is talking about, which could be described more as neoconservative. I think that this is a very important debate, and we have people of intelligence on both sides of it. So I don't think that either Rand or Rubio necessarily outright won this debate, but I think it really speaks to a divide that needs to be publicized more. And I found it really fascinating that Marco Rubio said that Rand Paul was a committed isolationist, because that's just, from my perspective as a libertarian Republican, I've got more radical libertarians who run around on Facebook saying that Rand is a neocon.
Yeah.
So for Rubio to say Rand is an isolationist, I really want to actually have that debate, because I would say no. Rand has actually called for airstrikes against ISIS. He's called for arming the Kurds. I mean, Rand is not an isolationist.
The problem with having having that debate is that Rand is not interesting on the debate stage. Yeah. I totally agree with you, and it's sad because you're right. I mean, I was really looking forward to him being in this race. Not a libertarian, but I'm a Paul fan, and I was really looking. But I realized very quickly that the debate stage is not his platform. So there's no way he can move off of. And jump off into something bigger, not from the debates. He's not a soundbite guy, and it's shallow, and I know it's not fair, but...
He's not. He's not a soundbite guy. I love him to death. Rand is actually someone I've known personally, and he's brilliant, not a soundbite guy. You're right.
Yeah, you know what the thing about it though, as bad as it has been lately for Rand on the debate stage, I really feel like he did make it his last night. I feel like he walked away with the win, which is typically something I would say about Rubio. But the fact that he showed up finally and gave his supporters and other people something to really think about says a lot. And I really do think that he put Rubio on his heels that night. The fact that Rubio launched into that isolationist thing after one comment from Rand says a lot to me. I think that he actually...
Well, I think that says a lot to libertarians. Honestly, as somebody who's not a libertarian, I didn't even think twice about that. So I think most people don't see it your way. I really think most people would see that exchange and think, oh, Marco got the best of Rand. So
and there are people who thought that too. I mean, it really depends on, which site you went to that you really saw whose take it was. Like I saw websites like Rare who were like, Rand Paul really killed it last night. Rand Paul put Rubio up, blah, blah, blah. And then, other ones that were all, well, Marco Rubio really schooled Paul. Mm-hmm. So, it really depends on your perspective.
It's perspective.
Yeah, but for me, to see that exchange finally happen where, because Rand Paul, when he talks, he knows what he's talking about.
Yes.
And needs to talk way more. I've been saying that since the beginning. He needs to talk way more, because when he does, it is a literal pleasure to listen to him.
But how does he do that in this part? This is his conundrum, right? Because we're in the heat of debate season, so the only opportunity you really have to reach the public at this point is either by doing what Trump and Christie do, which is go on some shows, or perform well on the debate stage. So what does Paul, and if he doesn't do that, he's not going to make it past here, when he would have a more opportunity to speak at length. So what can he do now to punch this up?
That's a really great question, Kira, and I actually wrote on my Facebook page last night, right after the debate, that I think what Rand did is something he's needed to do for a long time, which is shore up his base. Yes, maybe the average Republican who hasn't spent a lot of time considering the intellectual depths of Rand's realist foreign policy perspective, they're not going to understand that exchange, and I get that. As someone who spent a lot of time listening to Rand, I understand that he doesn't come across in sound bites, but what he did, and I've seen this among my friends in the past 24 hours, is he changed a lethargic base into people who are motivated to work for him. Yeah. And Rand has the same conundrum as Obama had, which is you need to grow the base and you need to bring in new voters and able to be victorious. Now, I don't think that Rand is going to win the nomination. I say this as a supporter of his. I think Rubio is going to take it. But what Rand can do is he can be an effective spokesperson for the libertarian wing of the Republican Party, and I saw that Rand last night, and that Rand has not been present until yesterday, and I'm seeing people starting to get motivated again, and I think whether or not you're a libertarian, that's good for the Republican Party.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Especially with the Republican Party moving further to the right as time goes on, because I've noticed a lot of people nowadays. I mean, how many times have you heard the phrase, well, I'm a conservative around the libertarians, but, I'm libertarian around conservatives.
Oh, my tagline.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I've actually never heard that phrase before. But,
well, no, I hear it all the time.
Write it down.
It even spawned the phrase conservatarian, which, caused Charles C.W. Cook of National Review to write an entire book about it. And I can get behind it. I'm glad that, we are, as a party, moving further to the right toward more liberty, more freedom.
Further to the right as far as freedom is concerned. Some people define the right as Trump.
I'm very concerned.
No, I know they're wrong. I know they're wrong. But the general discourse there is concerning. And I get it's the liberal media, whatnot. But there is a major difference between libertarianism and authoritarianism in that regard. I just think we need to be super careful about that. But that's an entire right? We can talk about that for hours.
Actually, my column coming out tomorrow is actually about this very thing, what people consider right wing and what people consider left wing. And I've kind of boiled everyone's throw up graphs and stuff like that. Like, hey, here I am on the political axis chart. Look, I have a much simpler idea. You have left, you have right. You can actually move the Overton window based on how much government control you want. You move it further to the left, the more government you have, the more collectivism, stuff like that. Because I see a lot of people nowadays who consider themselves cultural libertarians, calling themselves libertarians. I'm like, you cannot be a libertarian if you're against SJWs and you're all for individualism, but then you turn around and support Bernie Sanders. You're not a libertarian.
That's an entirely different discussion that I don't even want to.
That's a whole other show, isn't it? That's a whole other show.
I could go on and on, but I won't project subject us to that. I think as far as the debate goes, though, I think what Rand did is something he's needed to do for a long time, which is make his presence known. I mean, Rand Paul was on the cover of Time magazine. He was the most interesting man in politics because he was really the leader of a faction within the conservative movement that needs a voice. Mm-hmm. So I personally like Rand as that more than I like him as someone who will actually get the Republican nomination. And I admit that as one of his supporters.
Yeah, but someone needs to tell him to stop looking like he just ate a lemon when he goes on stage too. Like, I get that he's super serious, and he's annoyed because he's not getting his time, and that'll probably change too.
Then he needs to take his time.
And he needs to take his He needs to take his time. Sometimes you do have to interrupt, Mr. Trump, to grab your time, especially when a guy like Kasich has 55 uninterrupted minutes on a national broadcast.
Well, that's true. And Rand, I think one of the biggest criticisms of Rand is his demeanor. He can be a little bit prickly. Just an insight as someone who does kind of know Rand personally, he is more of a professor than a politician. That's why he does well when he's on the Senate floor giving a filibuster. That is his realm. He's amazing. I mean, for someone who's as nerdy as I am, there is nothing better than a Rand Paul filibuster, except maybe a Mike Lee filibuster. Like those two. I mean, brilliant, brilliant guys. If you want to sit down and really learn some knowledge, you listen to floor speeches by those two. Yeah. But the thing is that Rand needs to take that and turn it into sound bites, and he's not quite there yet. I'd like him to be, but he's not, and I admit that. But when he gets time, and when he uses it well, it's good for the Republican Party. And so I hope in future debates we'll see a little bit more of what we saw last night.
I'll be honest with you, Corie. I don't think he'll ever be there. I don't think he's that guy. And that's one of the things I like about him, that he's not that guy. It doesn't work well for presidential politics. But I don't want him to be that guy. I really don't. Because like you say, when he gets wind in his sails, and nobody is better, he will make you watch C-SPAN for 13 hours straight. He will make you do that. So I agree. I want to see him find a platform where he can do this better, but it's not the debate stage, unfortunately.
We're coming up at the end of the show, and so in the last few minutes we have left, I'm just going to go around the table and get all of your closing thoughts. So, Kira, we'll start with you.
I'm already super tired of debates. I prefer reality TV. I'm looking forward to Donald Trump's next show whenever he drops out of the race. I think Fiorina had a good night. Rubio had a great night. It was nice to hear Rand Paul talk. And on the B team, I think Christie needs to be on that A stage. And on the B team, not because I think he can win, but because I just love the way that he talks about policy and politics. I would love to see Bobby Jindal get a chance to just up there with those guys and talk to you.
He sounds like a Muppet when he talks.
Corie, closing thoughts.
All right, so I actually don't think all that much has changed from this debate to the last one. If you read my last columns at EveryJoe, I have praised Rubio more from an objective standpoint, not necessarily a policy one, but in terms of him being someone who would take on Hillary well. I still think that, as I said earlier in this podcast, I do believe that when he's over-rehearsed, he's not great, but I still do think that ultimately what we're seeing is a run between both Rubio and Cruz. I think Cruz is going to shore up kind of the people who think that the Republican Party hasn't been conservative enough, and I think Rubio is going to become the establishment choice because Jeb is just not doing well. I mean, we almost didn't talk about Jeb at all, right? He's that much of a non-factor. Jeb honestly is not that great, and so I think Rubio's filling that space, and I do think that we're going to see something between Rubio and Cruz, and that Rubio's ground game is not as significant as Cruz's, and he needs to catch up. So we'll see what happens with that.
Brandon Morse?
I'm going to have to agree with everything Corie just said. Jeb Bush is a joke. I think that as much as I do like Paul, he's probably not going to get the nomination due to the fact that he just does not have that savviness to him yet. I do think Rubio is the one who the establishment is going to back, and for the first time, I'm semi-okay with that. I think,
Same.
I think that, for once, the establishment and I can find some common ground.
I agree.
Yeah.
And that's why Rubio's going to win right there. That's why.
I like it.
Exactly.
I can live with it. I can live with it.
Rubio, if he does get the nomination, you can damn well bet that I'm going to back him. So before we actually take off, I want to discuss a little bit about the website EveryJoe.com. So what you can find there typically, we have columnists who are just absolutely amazing. Many of them are published authors. We even have columnists such as Corie Whalen, Kira Davis, and myself. Our columns are Correspondence, Corridors of Power, and the Morse Code. We even have Ed the Sock, the famous Ed the Sock. He has a YouTube series for EveryJoe.com. What you'll always find, our columnists who are brilliant are always at the top there, as you can see. You can, but we don't just cover
bias. I call media bias.
Yeah, my column in particular, always at the top.
Yes.
No, but we don't just cover politics. We also cover all sorts of pop culture stuff, from gaming to girls, as you can see. So please be sure to stop by at EveryJoe.com. We've pretty much got everything you want to ever look at, and I know you'll have a good time.
And just my closing thoughts. Well, the debate was fun last night. More importantly, if you're not watching The Flash on the CW every Tuesday night, you're missing out, because last night's episode, I literally sat there silent with my mouth open for the last 10 minutes. So
Nerd.
You should definitely
My husband watches that show.
Oh my gosh. Get me off this call. There's too much nerdiness on here. Are we done, nerds?
I gotta go back to playing Fallout 4.
I'm gonna go watch Space.
So, for Kira, for Corie, for Brandon, for the entire EveryJoe.com universe, I've been Brodigan. This has been the EveryJoe Podcast, and we will see you, I'm going to guess, next week. Good.